Sudan is home to more than 46 million people, and with this conflict, over 8 million people have been displaced, about half of them children, tens of thousands of people killed or wounded. Now, these are people, they're not just numbers. You're there, you see them. So please, help us put faces to the figures and help our viewers get an idea of how life in Sudan has changed in the past year.
Thank you very much. Life has drastically changed. You have a population, as you said, of 8 million people. That's almost 15% of the total population of Sudan. You have almost 1.5 million people, 1.8 million people that have crossed to neighboring countries, that is in Egypt, in Chad, in Central African Republic, in South Sudan, in Ethiopia. You have a population almost over 6 million people that are internally displaced. Most of them are spread in several towns that are currently safer than others. You have children that are displaced. In total, to date, you have over 25,000 children in the country that needs food support. Because as you know, besides the war, there's also the food security challenges. So you have a huge humanitarian catastrophe. And today, the largest population of displaced community lives in Sudan, despite the fact that they've been given very little highlight in the international media. If you go to some areas, you have some IDP camps and places where they receive, but majority of Sudanese are living in host family and relatives. So you could find a Sudanese family hosting easily 3, 4, 5 families with their small homes. This is the kind of kindness that Sudanese portray. They always help each other out, but of course it's almost been a year, and it's causing strain both on the relatives and host community, and also to the people displaced also, because your normal way of life, your normal way of livelihood has totally been disrupted.
Well, the IFRC has mobilized thousands of volunteers and workers all over Sudan to support people in a lot of areas with evacuations, family reunification, first aid, psychological support. How would you say aid deliveries have been so far? Are they sufficient? You're saying a lot more resources are needed, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Sudanese Red Crescent, together with the Red Cross Red Crescent movement, including colleagues from what we call the Swedish Red Cross, Swiss Red Cross, Netherlands, have over time invested a lot in building the capacity of the communities that are vulnerable to disasters. So you have in the community people that are trained in provision of water and how to purify water. You have health workers, you have disaster managers, you have psychosocial teams that are on the ground. So I would say the humanitarian situation right now is dire. The resources are small, but it's being shared out. But this is where we are actually highlighting and profiling the need to mobilize more resources for the people to be able to meet their basic needs.
What would you say that your teams need most right now?
At the moment, we are looking at provision of food, and because the next rain season is expected in the next couple of months. So you have to put at least 3 months after that rain season to be able to do any meaningful harvest. With the war, that has been disrupted. So we are talking about a rainy season that is coming, and there will be very little farm activities to be able to produce food. You're looking at a coming rain season that will cause flooding, and flooding comes with displacement of population, increased health challenges because of waterborne diseases, communicable diseases. You're talking about provision of shelter and additional shelter for the people that will be displaced and that are displaced. So it's a mixture of food, it's a mixture of health services that are required in terms of medical supplies, in terms of support for the health workers to be able to move, provide medical mobile services. You're looking at water purification and ensuring that water is accessed and clean, potable water is accessed by the communities.
Are there areas in Sudan that are particularly hard to reach but is also in dire need of aid?
Yes, this includes the capital city of Khartoum. This includes now places like Gadaref, where there are a large population of people displaced. But there are also others like Darfur, where because of the conflict, then access becomes a challenge. This also includes Kordofan region. So there are areas that are actually experiencing active fighting. There are areas that have received IDPs. And the areas that are also a bit far away from the war that are providing support to people who are displaced. So it's a mixture of people directly in the conflict area and people receiving IDPs. That would be Gadarif in Kassala, in River Nile states. So you have a mixture of the actual fighting areas and others areas that are receiving people.
Multiple conflicts are taking place around the world right now, and Gaza is under the global spotlight. So, we have just a sheer wealth of information available to us now, and people and media are calling, war news fatigue. How can we keep the world's attention on Sudan and ensure that it does not become just another forgotten crisis?
I think this is a time for man with conscience to reflect and look at the challenges and humanitarian needs that are facing in Sudan. Similarly, they have to look at the humanitarian challenges that are faced in Gaza, in Europe. So there are times when a human being needs to sit down and reflect on the humanitarian consequences of man's action. Some of this can be avoided. Some of this can be mitigated. And some of this can be eliminated if man sits and talk and look at the humanitarian consequences of their action. It's not enough to just mobilize humanitarian services if the root cause of the problems are not addressed. You cannot have children being killed in war, women being killed, and looking at population that are now struggling and to meet basic needs. While if the situation and the environment was conducive, there would be no need to be talking about this issue today. So I think besides the humanitarian consequences of this war, we're also calling about the conscience of man, and especially the people that are able to look for all means possible to ensure that the root cause, which is the current fighting, is put to a stop. That the humanitarian suffering needs to stop, to be addressed. And this will just be the first step. And the next step is to get people to recover and go back to their normal way of life. So the call we are making as Red Cross, Red Crescent movement is there needs to be a ceasefire, there needs to be peace, and there needs to be reconciliation. And that will be the best, the first step into the longer journey of recovery.